Welcome to our second series of Lessons from a Birth and Baby Business Owner. This is a show where we'll be speaking to those who are in or who have been in the birth or baby business world to ask them the questions that you'd like to know the answer to on how they got to where they are in business today. My name's Anna LaGrange and I'm one half of Baba Business, the Birth and Baby Business Academy.
My name is Liz Stanford and I am the other half of Baba Business, the community membership for birth and baby business owners. And today we are interviewing the amazing Emma Armstrong. So Emma is a creative visionary, entrepreneur and the founder of the Naked Doula brand. She's a retired birth doula and hypnobirthing coach who has built a worldwide visual education platform, which will inspire women and men alike for years to come. Emma is using her influence and gifts to guide women all over the world in connecting back to their self-trust, confidence, and abilities, not just in birth, but in all aspects of their lives. Emma is also a writer, author, and illustrator. The Fearless Birth Journal is her second book, out soon, I think. Yeah, wow. Very exciting. Well, that is quite the bio, and we were all having a little conversation before we press record about how you introduce yourself and what you say about yourself, and really, you know, that is the perfect summary, I think, of you, Emma, and what you do. And we just want to know more. So why don't you start by telling us how did you come into the birth and baby world? And even if you want to go back further than that, we'd love to know what led you to where you are today.
Well, so first of all, I mean, I don't know if I could probably say that at school gates, could I? Hi, my name's Emma Armstrong. This is
You might get some funny looks, but it's
couldn't quite get away with that. So yeah, I have had a very interesting life when it comes to work and jobs and interests and things like that. I have never been scared to jump into different things. So I mean, I can't even tell you how many jobs I've had because I don't actually know myself. I can't even remember. I couldn't count them on my hands times three, you know.
I remember seeing you did some stories quite recently, didn't you, about like your whole history. And I was like, oh yeah, I know Emma. Yeah, I know her. We've had quite a few chats. Like I know her, in a decent way. And then I was like, wow, there's a lot that's happened.
There is a lot. But it's and I just think, wow, like I'm 36 now, like, whoa, if that was like the first half of my life, what's the second half going to be like?
Yeah, it's exciting.
So yeah, I've done lots of different things, even though I was always told that I need to be concentrating on one thing and I need to be focusing on one career. I think this is a narrative that all of us are fed, isn't it, as children?
Yeah.
And when we go into our adolescence, you need to pick what you're going to do, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
However, I just think that's absolutely such a crazy statement now. And, and I felt really guilty about that for years, like jumping from, job to job. And I always did so well as well. Like whenever I went into a job, I always put my everything into it. So I always excelled. So by the age of like 21, I was flying to Chicago, doing trade shows for one particular company. In my late 20s, I was like managing the operations for like the whole of the UK for a major shoe company called Echo, and I was flying to Switzerland. And I don't fucking know how these things happen. I wish I could tell you. But you know what? I think is more than anything, it's not about like, oh, I went and I did this education or I did this. It was the charisma and the energetics and the, having a clear vision in my head about, things I wanted to do and things I wanted to achieve and my self-belief.
Wow. Yeah.
So I went through this process of doing, all different kinds of things. I worked for myself. I was never afraid to lose a job because I thought, well, I've done all these things. I can do anything, I can do anything. And even though I, suffered really badly with anxiety and depression. I was on prescription drugs for a long time. Even though that part of me was very much alive, I must have still had this deep inner sort of thing of going, I'm just going to go for it, you know. And even when I felt like shit and I was, you know, having panic attacks, there must have been something deep inside, you know, pushing me forward to just carry on taking those steps. So then when I actually ended up in Mauritius, and I was doing some, again, this was so interesting because I went over there and I was offered all kinds of great jobs, and I ended up just doing some volunteer work for an animal shelter.
Wow.
And it was the first time I hadn't actually worked, you know, like for money. I just, you know, and that was amazing for me, really profound. Like lots of amazing things happened in Mauritius. I kind of like started to find myself properly there. And within like the month or so, there was like, she's so fucking good, we need to offer her a job. So they offered me a job as a trainee vet technician.
And that was never in the plan. That was never.
And I was like, I'm just here volunteering. They were like, we're going to offer you a job as a trainee vet technician, you know, because, and I was just, this is the thing, and this is it. And I really truly believe that anyone can actually do anything if you are going into it with the right energy, with the right, you know, belief system. So anyway, this all happened and I ended up coming away from Mauritius, coming back to the UK, and I just took on some temp jobs for a little while. And one of them was, I actually can't say for what I'm going to say next, but I was working for a company, a well-known company in Nottingham. And again, I was diving straight in, you know. Everyone was like, who is she? Like who does she think she is kind of attitude? Because I was like, right, I'm undercovering all this shit, and I'm, you know, and I ended up like being in meetings with the directors and everyone was like, what the fuck's going on? And I can remember, because this is just like, you know, the nature of, you know, I'm coming in, I'm trying to do a really good job here, and I upset a few people from the higher, you know, tiers of the company, because I started uncovering some stuff that was meant to be hidden.
Oh,
yes,
sounds ominous.
I know. So here I am, like, you know, things coming to the surface, but all is well. And then I fall pregnant with Charlie. Now, just before I fall pregnant with Charlie, I get the news about my mum having cancer.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is happening around me and I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening now? Like, is my job secure? Like, what's going on? And I just carried on and I thought, oh, well, you know, these permanent jobs are coming through soon. So they'll just clearly, like, I'm going to get one of these permanent roles, you know, like, why wouldn't I, you know? So time moves on and I'm, you know, managing all these different aspects and spending a lot of time with my mum outside of work. So I was really disconnected from the pregnancy early on in those early stages. And then 20 weeks came and I'm planning to go for my scan. So I'm in work in the morning. And then just before I leave, they take me into an office. And my manager was really upset. He was like almost crying. And I was thinking, what's going on here? And he was like, I'm so sorry. He says, but we're not, we're letting you go. And this is it. This is your last, when you leave, you're not coming back. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. And I said, is this to do with so-and-so? And he was like, yeah, like really scared and upset. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is insane.
Okay.
Yeah. So I walked out and I thought, oh my God, I'm 20 weeks pregnant. My mum's dying. I've just lost my job. Like, what do I do with this?
Yeah,
you know?
like what else can you take, sort of thing. That's a lot to happen.
You know, what else is coming? And at that point, I just thought to myself, right, okay, like I'm just gonna you know, drop everything, leave everything, and just spend some time with my mum.
Yeah.
And you know, I continued to do that. And for 6 weeks after that point, I mean, I was in a position where luckily, you know, Adam was financially supporting the house, so I didn't have to like jump into another job. But for those 6 weeks, which were the last 6 weeks of my mum's life,
Yeah.
unbeknowing at the time, was doulaing her.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
literally,
yeah.
I literally doulaed her up until her death. And I didn't realise that until afterwards, until I learned and appreciated what a doula was, that I understood and realised what I did there. Which is gorgeous, you know, which
It's
is
amazing. Yeah.
so this time when in 26 weeks she passed away, and then everything seemed fine. The funeral came and I was like, oh my God, I cannot give birth. I cannot have this baby. I cannot fucking, like, what the fuck am I going to do now? Like, what
Yeah.
am I going to do now? Because I've lost everything. I've
Mm.
lost everything. And then I was, you know, and it did cross my mind thinking like, what's going to happen next? Am I going to lose my baby? Like, you know, like what else am I going to lose? You
Yeah.
know, a lot of things were coming into my head, but I just, I think sort of centered myself, balanced myself, got in touch with Sophie Fletcher at the
Yeah.
time, reading her
Mhm.
book, and she only happened to be down the road, which was insane. And she offered to be my doula,
Wow.
Lovely.
and I was like, yeah, wow. So from that point onwards, I hyper focused. I took this sort of like grief, I guess, and I hyper focused into birth.
Yeah.
So I was doing absolutely everything, and I got a little bit obsessed, you know, which, you know, isn't surprising, and, you know, it's quite normal in those circumstances to hyper focus. But I couldn't believe what I was reading, and I couldn't believe what I was finding out. And I was like, what? How do we not know this stuff?
Mm.
I was absolutely mind blown, and I just couldn't believe it. So I started writing about it on the internet. And it started off as just like a blog called Charlie's Legacy, because Charlie hadn't been born yet.
Yeah.
And I just started writing stuff and sharing things about birth, and people were like blown away. And I started connecting with people, and people were sending me their birth stories. This is before Naked Doula even existed. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is the thing, you know, like, I need to learn, I need to do this, and I need to get this information out there, and I just need to do it. So before Charlie was even born, I'd started my hypnobirthing training because I'm clearly mental.
Yeah. Something else to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd started preparing for my doula training. Now, luckily, in between that, I'd taken this company to court.
Oh, wow.
And for a little
Okay.
bit of money,
Yeah.
a bit of money is what I used for my business setup. So my training, I bought myself a MacBook.
Yeah.
And I had a clear vision in my head, a clear vision, which was to be able to share information in a simplified way, which was going to help women empower themselves
Yeah.
and their birth experiences. The vision was very clear. So then at this point, I started to, you know, come together with the concept and the idea of the Naked Doula. And I was really scared about it, to be honest, because in the birth world back then, no one swore. No, everyone was just like, this is la 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 la. And it was all beige, and it was just boring.
Yeah.
For me,
Mhm.
because I'm, you know, everyone's got their own vibe and everything, but I was just like, why is everything so beige and so like la-di-da-di-da? And I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I can put this out there, because I think I'm either gonna get shut down or it's gonna be a hit.
Yeah.
And obviously I went out there all guns blazing, and I don't know whether you can remember, like, at the start, but I think like even Sheena Byron messaged me like near, like, you know, when I'd been around for a couple of months. She was like, I don't really agree with your language, but I really do love, you know, you've yeah, and now she's fine with it, you know, because everyone's swearing, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
back then, you know, using that kind of language was just not a thing to do
Yeah.
when talking about birth. So
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah, it was.
so then the Naked Doula was born, and it went from there.
Yeah.
Sorry, a lot answer to your question there, Liz.
It's a lot. It is quite the journey, definitely. And I remember, like, from a outside perspective, kind of watching you. So I remember you and I had started, like, we'd connected on Instagram when I think you'd finished your hypnobirthing training, maybe you'd finished your doula training as well, and we started chatting. And you were, I think you'd had Charlie by then, so I can remember you being very much sort of like juggling a lot and kind of working it all out, and how it was, how on earth do I now run a business with this tiny little being who relies on me all the time, and everything that came with it. And then it seemed like out of nowhere, but obviously it wasn't out of nowhere because it was a vision that you had. The Naked Doula appeared. I remember being like, whoa, what is this? And it was just like so refreshing, and as you said, so colourful and so engaging, that it was, it was something that was really well needed in the birth world, because we have to appeal to different types of people. And the Calm Birth School, we've been around for several years now, and I've owned the Calm Birth School since 2017, I think, or 2018. But I thought that as we came out, we were kind of more relatable and more kind of accessible and normal compared to some of the other hypnobirthing brands that were, you might describe as quite flowery, etc. So then seeing you coming out and being this kind of new vision for birth, for those people who needed that kind of visual education, that very sort of short, sharp kind of, this is what it is, this is what it's about, with a few F-bombs, okay, a lot of F-bombs in there. It was great to see the rise of that. And I think everybody was like, ooh, what's this? What's going on? Do you feel like you've really led the way for other brands to kind of come out and be themselves and be as vocal as you and as vibrant as you?
I do. I really do, because I never saw this before. I saw it, like, I was like, but this is how I have conversations with people all the time. This is how I talk, and this is how, like, a lot of people talk, and how is it that we're not just talking like we would talk to people?
Yeah.
And and I did want to be a bit brash. I did want to be a bit like shocking.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we need something really like, oh my God, I can't believe, she's talking about vaginas and shitting in labor, and like things that people wouldn't usually talk about, or they would keep private to talk about.
Yeah.
And people loved it, and they found it funny, and they found it relatable, and this is how people learn and retain information even more so.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do. And now, I mean, now in the birth world, everyone uses colorful language, and and that's amazing, because I think as long as you're using your tone of voice and your authenticity, like, and not just swearing for the sake of swearing, mind you. But I think it did pave a way for people to be like, oh, okay, well, if she can say things like that, then why can't I say things like that?
Yeah.
And I think because it grew so rapidly as well, I think people were like, oh, like, how? And I can remember people asking me, like, how are you doing this? And I said, I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
Because authenticity is one of the highest frequencies. Truth is the highest frequency, and there is absolutely no way you cannot magnetize with that level of authenticity. And that's exactly what happened.
I agree. That's a real lesson for people. I don't know what you think, Anna, about, I think sometimes it's really hard, isn't it, to be yourself when you're coming into something new. Like, let's say you've just done your training and you're coming into a new world, a new environment. To really be yourself can be quite difficult, and people kind of take some time for people to really be themselves.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an evolution, but I think I totally agree with everything Liz saying. From the outset, the Naked Doula was something really different. But the other thing I loved about that brand and about what you created is I think people come into this world thinking you have to be a certain way, but also you brought in your other skills and passions with your artwork. And I think a lot of people don't always marry that sort of their past life or an interest with their current thing. So I've had people before who have, you know, been like a breastfeeding supporter. And in fact, it's so funny. This is something I'll just name drop here. So Milk and Moon, I remember her saying to me once, "Oh, you know, maybe I should bring more art into my what I love about, you know, about breastfeeding," because she had kept them very, very separate, and then, you know, had this massive kind of you know, birth design business, you know. But I think a lot of people, they feel scared to step outside and say, "Oh, could we match art with you know, breastfeeding, or I don't know, it could be something else, it could be a completely different skill." I think, like, now that it sounds so obvious, but it sounds weird to say, 10 years ago that seemed like a weird thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think this is a lot to do with our programming as well, you know, because, you know, we go to school, we go through these this sort of programming of life where this is the box, and we stay inside the box and we tick all the boxes within the box. And it becomes then difficult to think, oh, can we, you know, like people, oh, can I do that? Yes, you can do absolutely anything you want to do, anything at all. Like, there is absolutely no rules when it comes to your business.
Yeah. And
There's no
that's
rules at all.
that's something I really picked up on what you said earlier, Emma. Sorry for interrupting. Was that you talked about the you said people can do anything, and it's like the energy, the belief. I wrote down that you said, like, it's the charisma, the vision, and the self-belief. What if you're not that kind of person? Like, how do you get that out of yourself? And I think this is maybe more related to some of the other work that you're doing now. But what's your opinion on helping get that out of us?
Yeah, so something that I've really realized over this, what I've learned, I would say, mostly on my journey of business, and when I look back in my life and now, is that as women, emotions are probably the most magical thing that we tend to just forget and just suppress down and just leave to the side. But actually, understanding our emotions, understanding our energy is the way that we can create special things for ourselves, in our lives, in our business. And I've used emotion, like, for example, like grief, as a catalyst. What I could have done at that period of time is I could have been completely opposite. I could have taken that grief and just wanted to hide myself away. And, you know, and absolutely some people want to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in that instance, I was like, I'm going to take this grief and I'm going to turn it into a ball of fucking fire, and I'm fucking running with it, you know? And I think but I was comfortable with my grief.
Yeah.
I was comfortable with my emotions, and I've become even more so, you know, a lot more aware of my emotions and a lot more in touch with that. This is it. Women who want to move forward in their business, who want to create something really amazing for themselves, we have to start with our actual self inside. Like, how are we feeling? What's showing up for us? Are you actually present? Do you even understand how you're feeling today? Have you taken 5 minutes to listen to your body? What's coming up for you? You know, when you feel emotional, are you giving yourself time to be able to release that? Are you giving yourself time to be angry? Or are you suppressing it?
Definitely.
Are you speaking your truth, or are you living a misaligned life? Because these are the very roots, like how we are as people. Being able to build these roots by understanding ourselves is really creating the strong foundations for a business. And I know that this is how it works, because the Naked Doula, like, I've had ebbs and flows like every business does, you know. But when I started the Naked Doula, I was like, go, 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 go. And it was built, obviously, you know, from this grief. But there have been times where I'm like, hang on a minute, these foundations need to be brought back in. I need to reground myself. I need to come back to this, because we can all go, can't we? We can all create some branding. We can all, you know, pay thousands of pounds for a website and for this, that, and the other. But if we're not truly grounded in our messaging, in our vision, in, you know, everything we stand for, in our confidence, in our ability to show up, then we're going to find it a bit difficult along the way, and we may, you know, slow ourselves down. So yeah, connecting back with our emotions and ourselves is absolutely key.
Totally agree. But I think it's the things that people don't think about or they don't address. They're more interested in doing. You know, it's all very sort of up here, isn't it? Like, I've got to learn about, you know, I've got to learn about social media, I've got to learn about Canva, I've got to do, you know, all of those like practical things, which, you know, you do need to know and understand as a business owner. And then we're just leaving everything else by the wayside. And again, I think, I know Anna's going to agree with this as well. But again, it's like you've got to come back to it time and time and time again. You've got to really check in with yourself and make sure you're aligned with what you're doing. Exactly what you said, Emma, and just being really present in the space that you're taking up as well.
Do you think there was this element for you, Emma, of you know, you'd lost so greatly, like had one of the biggest loss that you could have in your life, and it kind of gave you this real like there is nothing to. I know you obviously you had a marriage and you had a baby on the way, so of course you know you did have other things to lose, but was there that element of like, why would I not just totally go for this, because I've felt this, you know, I felt this huge, you know, had this emotional upheaval, so why not just, you know, fuck it type attitude? Do you know what I mean? Do you think that was really part of it? Because sometimes I really, even for myself, I think, what am I sitting here so scared of? Do you know what I mean? about, you know, about whatever it might be in my business. So do you think there is that element of where you'd been and to build it up from that, you know, that really low place in your life?
At the time, if I'm honest, at the time it didn't feel like that energy. It didn't like, fuck it, I've lost everything, so fuck it, kind of, you know. It was more like it was the vision for me. It was the, oh my God, it was the light bulb moment of like, I need to do anything in the world, and I don't care what it's going to take, but I need to get this message out there to people. And I kind of, and to be honest with you, that sort of attitude of not being scared, that's come from my whole like life experience, because there's been so many times where I've been scared and anxious, but I've just fucking done it, you know, and I've done it again and again. And it's like a practice. It's like anything, like a muscle, isn't it? You know, the more that we push ourselves, the more that we, you know, take ourselves out of our comfort zone, the more that we can, you know, get into it, becomes easier, doesn't it? Like showing up on social media. When I first showed up on the Naked Doula, like on videos, I felt like an absolute idiot. I was like, people are going to think I'm an imposter, like, you know, all the things that we feel. Like, I can't possibly show up. I'm new, like, you know, I haven't even had a doula client yet. How can I possibly call myself the Naked Doula? You know, all these things, you know, that we get caught up about. But, you know, that's actually absolutely like actually irrelevant. You know, like when I think now, just what you said, Anna, like I'm in the process of like launching a new business alongside, like a new business of where I am in my life. And I think about when I weigh them up, and I'm like, it's so interesting how the Naked Doula was created from this place of like, you know, this urgency and this fire and this type of emotion. Whereas this is coming from like this maybe place like where a lot of people, they're like, this is what I want to create, you know, like a sort of normal, there's no like backing of, you know, something's happened necessarily. But I feel like when you're in that position, and I have no idea, I don't know if people are going to like my ideas or not like my ideas, you know, or whether they're going to get it or they're not going to get it, or, you know, because you know, I'm going to be like, this is deep, fucking quite deep. Like, people are going to be like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, but it's all about like, I think you just have to come back to what feels good for you, you know, and this is where I go back to. I'm like, does this feel good to me? Like, is this me? Does this make me like tingle? Does this like give me all the like feels? Like, does it feel good? Yes. Okay. Then I'm going for it. Then I'm doing it, you know, but if it doesn't make me feel good, and I'm going to use this example in the birth world. Like, I can't stand talking about induction. I don't fucking like it. I just don't like it.
Mhm.
For me, I don't like the conversation. I don't like what it brings. I don't like the drama around it,
Mhm.
and I know I'm not alone when it comes to talking about these things in the birth world. And I don't really want to talk about it. I'm not a medical professional.
Mhm.
Yes, I share lots of factual information and update it. I don't fucking want to do that.
Yeah.
And I can remember going through a stage where I share some similar things, about this, and it didn't feel good in my body.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
interestingly, because that energy, it does, this is invisible. This energy, you can't see this, but if you're putting a post out there or something you're sharing, or you're showing up at a masterclass, sharing something, that people are coming to, and you do not feel good about what
Mm.
you are sharing, it will show up.
100%.
And it might not show up instantly, but it will show up, like it's just so interesting how the dynamics of, how people take things and how people react, and actually like what you sort of bring in, and attract to yourself when you're in this kind of like, oh, you just attract more of it.
Yeah.
So I just don't talk about that anymore on my page. I just
That's
don't talk about it. I just
yeah.
don't want to talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about it, and that's fine. It's okay. You
Exactly.
don't have
Yeah.
to.
Definitely.
Just talk
That's
about it.
such a
Absolutely.
good lesson for people. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's your, like you said, it's your business, it's your page. You talk about what you want to talk about. You focus on the things that you love that are important to you, and it will really shine through, definitely. So I love that you discovered that about yourself, and obviously it's made a big impact. So this new business, does it feel like totally different to the Naked Doula? And that's just representative of where you are in your life, isn't it? So we do
It's so
evolve and change and grow.
yeah. It's so beautiful because it's so gorgeous when you think about when just at any point when I think about where I was then, like I was still a very deep person. I was still, spiritual. I was still all these things, but at that part in my life,
Hmm.
I was in that vibrant, I need to get this out there, and I need to, and I've got things to say. That was
Yeah.
that era of my life. I have shit to say, and I'm fucking gonna say it, and I'm gonna swear about it, and I'm gonna draw pictures of vaginas, and I'm gonna shock everyone. That was that part of my life, and that was the energy that I was in. And that's amazing, and I've built up such an amazing brand, and it will be forever alive. It is what it is, and I've created that, which is fantastic. But this now is more like sort of a personal brand, but also bringing in like other aspects, and it's deep. It's more like, about like myself, about what I value. And
Hmm.
this is, and I love this, right? So I'm going to use this as an example for anyone who is creating their like businesses. So the Naked Doula, who it's for basically, is for people who are sort of just waking up to things in the birth world. They don't quite know, what's going on. They find me, they're like, whoa, I'm mind blown. It's accessible, it's easy, it's, a very accessible
Yeah.
price. It's online, it's for that person, okay,
Yeah.
who wants to come. They just want to know the stuff, there is some mindset stuff in there is some hypnobirthing, but it's not really that deep.
Yeah.
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 That's the Naked Doula. That's the audience it's for, and that is okay, because that's what it is for. It's for
Definitely.
those
Yeah.
people. My new business, and in fact, no, ignore that for a second. Let me try and like think of like Carmen Russia, Quantum Life and Birth.
Yeah.
Carmen is, she's not trying to get people who are like just new to the birth world and looking for that visual. Carmen is bringing in clients who really want to delve into the deep mindset work, really want to, that's what she values, that's what her audience is. So she
Yeah.
can charge, I don't know, I'm just going to plug a figure, $5,000, let's say, for example, for a coaching package with Carmen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what she values. That's her audience.
Hmm.
You can pay £39 for my course on Naked Doula, but we are talking to completely different
Yeah.
audiences and people. So it really is about what you value at the time. Like, what are you trying to attract? So for me, my new sort of business that I'm going into is I want to bring in the people that do understand. So when I'm sharing a piece of artwork, for example, which I will be sharing art, if I'm sharing art and I'm looking at that and I'm like so deeply fucking moved by it, then I really value that. And the people that are going to align with me are people that also really value that and can see what I can see. They're my people. And we get scared because we get so caught up in thinking, oh, I'm just going to post what everyone else thinks.
Snooze fest,
or, I'm going to do the same as everyone else in the birth world. Boring. Like everyone's just repeating, regurgitating the same shit. But actually, that's not good. It doesn't matter. And the likes don't matter. None of that shit matters. The followers don't matter. I found it so much easier at 20,000 followers, let me tell you. So much easier. Like, I do not want a big account again. It's so much easier with a smaller audience,
Why would you say somebody listening to that is going to be like, what? Surely more is better. So what's your experience then of having a large audience in a negative way?
Okay. The way I see it is, if you could imagine being in a room with those people. So if I'm standing in a room and I've got I don't know, let's say 500 people. Wow. In a room with 500 people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, you could actually break that down. Let's make it 200. You're in a room with 200 people. That's a lot of people. So Definitely. I've got those 200 people to engage with, to get them engaged in my work, to really build relationships with, and for them to feel aligned with me and, want to buy from me and want to follow me and want to learn more about me and want to then learn more about themselves, better themselves. And it works in this beautiful cycle. As you get bigger and bigger, you lose that. You lose that ability to have the same relationships. Imagine then if I have a room with 10,000 people. Well, I'm not going to be able to build the same things with that group of 200 people than I am with the 10,000 people, and so forth and so forth. And even though you can scale, of course you can, and absolutely. But I know accounts that have got 500,000, 1 million, and they are not making a penny.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's really not about that. It's about how you can keep the trust and your audience engaged and actually care about the person and not about the number. And I have done this with the Naked Doula. I'm not going to lie, let's be honest. I did get to a point where I was just like, oh yeah, I've got so many followers. I don't need to think about this anymore. You do. It's the most important thing. You value those people. If you don't value those people, don't expect those people to buy from you.
Yeah. So true. Yeah.
Because they won't buy from you. They won't, so you have to have that value for yourself, for those people. And this is why it doesn't matter the size of your audience. If you want to go, if you've got a different perspective, I don't know, maybe you want to go and you want to, it definitely helped me to become an author in that respect.
Yep. True.
If you want to go out and become somebody, if that's the reason you're doing it, then, maybe that could help you.
Yeah, to be an influencer or something like that, if you want to be people to pay you for ads and products and things like that. But no, I totally agree. So our posts at Baba that have done the biggest, they're just randoms. People that like and comment. They're just random people who, they're not our ideal audience. They're just some random bloke in, somewhere in an African, we had because I'm in South Africa, we get quite a lot of African followers. People see our posts. And it's just, 20-something African men are not our demographic. They're not going to have birth and baby businesses. So it doesn't really, at first, it's like a bit of an ego thing, isn't it? You're like, oh, this post has got however many, thousands of, but then when you actually look into it and look at who's liked or commented on that post, you're a bit like, this isn't helping us in any way whatsoever. And so that is the ugly part of, well, it's just the culture of social media where we're led to believe that everything's about likes and follows, and it's complete garbage. Actually, if you're trying to build up a business where you're trying to help and work with people, then it's actually not that relevant.
No, absolutely not. And the posts that have made me the most amount of money are the ones probably with the lowest engagement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally get that as well.
I'll put a post out and it might only have 30 likes, and I've made 60 sale, or do you know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
and plucking numbers out the air. But it's kind of like, oh, that post, did really well, or and yeah, it's social media is such a funny place. And I think if you're a business owner on social media, you're in your mind, you need to be thinking, I'm doing social media to run my business and to make money, not as a consumer. You
Yeah.
spend your time on social media as a business owner and you're consuming more than you are being that business owner, then there's an issue.
Yeah,
Ooh,
100%.
yeah.
People really get lost in the scroll holes. I get lost in a scroll hole,
Yeah, I can do it.
yeah, like the whole P. Diddy thing. I've gone down a rabbit hole recently. I can just get lost in it. It's a real bad habit, but
You're not alone.
I
You're
do
not
pull myself.
alone.
I do pull myself back out of it again, definitely. Gosh, there's just so much. I think I'm thinking about people listening to this and what kind of questions they would have for you, Emma. And I think maybe, people they come into the birth and baby world with their passion, with their like desire to make a difference for people and to really connect and it's not just birth. Obviously, we serve baby business owners as well. So it's a variety of businesses. But ultimately, what they all need to do is make money in order to keep going, survive, keep serving, and it's not just about surviving. It's about getting to that point where you are actually thriving and you've got a sustainable, profitable business. So how did you go about making the Naked Doula profitable? Like, do you remember the times where you were like hitting your financial targets and you were like, oh my god, and how did that? Is there anything special that you did or different? I know maybe people will be watching and thinking, but I'm doing all the social media and I'm doing all the networking and connecting and and I've got funnels and all that sort of stuff. So is there anything you think that you did differently?
Yeah, first of all, like I've never ever had financial targets
Yeah.
as a business, only because for me, and I think it's different for everyone. I follow a lot of like my own human design,
Yeah.
and that's been really helpful for me. And I think it's crazy, it'd be crazy, some people might think it's crazy, as a business owner, not to have financial targets, but I don't like to give numbers and dates. I don't like to say this is the date and this is the number, because that does not work for me.
Yeah.
It's like when my publishers say you need to get this back by this date, and I'm like, like, you can't give me, I'm not very good with this, and then it feels restrictive for me, and then I
Yeah.
can't flow. I think the attitude I've had more so is, okay, this is what I've created, so let's see if we can match this again, or let's see if we can, up that. But every business will always ebb and flow. Like, you're always going to have like lower months, high months. The way I started, first of all, was I didn't go into this with, oh, I'm going to build a website and I'm going to do all the things that people do. They love to get all the website done, the branding done, and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wonder why they're not making money.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it comes back down to the energetics, the strategy, the vision. Like, I was so clear before I even started posting. And I'm not saying everyone should hold off, but what I am saying is you need to be clear about your brand pillars. You need to be clear about what you're sharing, what your message is. Is it going to reach the people that you want it to reach? I'd already created X amount of posts. Like, I was flowing with, because I knew what my message was. So I already had a plan in place, a bit of a plan in place before I even started, a strategy. And that wasn't necessarily a strategy to go, I'm going to do this. All my vision is I'm going to reach hundreds of thousands of women all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was always clear in that vision. So I never let that go out of sight. And the way that I did this, I did everything, but I had no help. It was just me and Charlie as a newborn. Yeah. Was working, lockdown was happening. I had nobody. It was one of the loneliest times of my life. It really was. But I was so thingy on my vision that I was like, right, we're going to be, we're going to be good. Like, this is what we're doing, and this is the plan. And I never lost focus. And I did it all from my phone.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything from my phone. Like, I was hardly ever on that MacBook. I did everything from my phone because I didn't have a choice. I was sitting there with a newborn in my arms who would not leave me, who had to be on me all the time. I couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't sleep on his own, nothing. So I had to do this off of my phone. And I can remember literally just, and again, I didn't go to a training, I didn't go and do a Canva course, I didn't go and do this course, that and the other. What I did was just believed in my ability to be patient and to just try things.
Yeah.
Trial and error, and that's what I continued to do.
That's so important, definitely. People are
Yeah.
afraid to make mistakes, or they want to do it correctly. But yeah, trial and error in everything in business is what is going to get you ahead.
Exactly, like give it a go. And the first thing that I ever started doing, so I spent a good 3 months on building trust with my audience,
Mm-hmm.
letting them know who I was, doing lots of things, talking. And I wasn't doing it for everyone goes in straight away for the money.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, you can't just go into a business and go, I'm going into this business because I want to be a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
There's the wrong attitude, and especially in the birth world. What are you actually wanting to do?
Yeah.
What are you actually wanting to, so
Impact, yeah.
impact, yeah. What is the impact? Because with impact, big impact comes big income,
Yeah.
they marry each other. So this happened, and then I started doing a Saturday morning class live on Zoom. And I can remember I'd spent some time, building this up with my audience, and I was like, right, it's been 2 or so months. I need to start making some money now. I literally just want to make £100 a week, so maybe I can have help with Charlie.
Yeah.
For example. And so I was running these classes on a Saturday morning, and they just ended up being sold out every single Saturday.
Wow.
I was like, what's going on here? And it was so stressful as well, because Adam was always messing about. So it started at 9 and I'd still have George in my arms, and then he'd be messing it, and I'm like, fucking, do you know what I mean? Just take the baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the one time in the whole week, do you know what I mean? I just need someone to help me.
Yeah.
So I'd have to take a few breaths, and then I'd show up for the calls.
Mm-hmm.
And every Saturday morning I'd do these calls, and I'd have my, number of people that were in there, 8 people or whatever it is, or couples or whatever, every single week. And I was charging back then, £35 for this hour. And they would turn up, and I was like, so within the month or so, I was only £1,000 a month. And I was thinking, this is
Wow.
this is,
Yeah.
this is insane. But it wasn't because I was trying to go, I deserve to, I'm going to make 1,000. It wasn't like that. It was what is my impact here, and what is my worth? What is my value? What are the people I want to bring in? And I had no questions. When I think back now, there was absolutely nothing in my mind that was questioning, oh, well, should I charge £35? Should I not? It was this is the price. This is where we go. You coming or you're not coming? But I had built up such an engaged audience because I cared about them. I didn't just care about me, I cared about them, and I cared for what we're doing. So that carried on for a little while. That's all I was doing to start with, and then obviously in between. And then I decided to bring the flashcards out, the very, very first type of flashcards, which they're not like they are now. They were very just local printers, there was 30 in the pack or whatever. And I can remember I'd been talking about them, I'd been showing people around the process, and I think I bought 300 packs. I was like, all right, I'm going to do 300 packs. I've made some money from these classes, and they fucking sold out. I couldn't believe it.
They're great though. Again, it was innovative, it was new, it was different. There was nothing out there like that at the time. It was needed.
And this is it. And it wasn't a case of oh, do people like this? Do not what will other people think? Is this the right thing to do? It's kind of hang on a minute, I think people would really love this. It's got all my information on all these different things. It's easy, and people seem to really enjoy the classes that I was running. So and then when I eventually put them out to say they were for sale, I can remember sitting there with Adam, and I was it was ding, 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 ding.
What
and I was
feeling.
It's oh my, I can remember honestly the feeling. It was wow. But that wasn't because it was just luck. I had built and engaged. I cared about my audience. I built an engaged audience that I cared about, and I cared about what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I valued myself. And even though all the time, you know, everyone goes through the imposter stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even now still, like, you still get that feeling of, you know, and you have to just realign yourself and be like, hang on, no, I am valuable, and what I'm sharing is valuable.
Yeah.
And you know, even though I'm maybe talking about, you know, the same things that other people are talking about, how can you just bring it as yourself and as your, you know, in your own voice, and just be yourself? So yeah, and it just went from there. And I knew that by this point I needed to get my course online, and then obviously that's when I got stuff online, and it became more of a passive income. And now everything through the Naked Doula is passive.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant.
yeah, obviously in between that I had like my clients, like my individual clients, but and again, I don't know, like, do you want me to go into like that? Because I didn't even start with a low price for my doula package.
You just went straight for what felt right to you.
I went straight in, yeah, based on like how I felt and my value. I didn't go like, oh, I'm just a new doula, so I'm just going to charge like £500, because I was like, no, I'm worth my abilities, and the way that I can support people, regardless of whether I'm a new doula or not, is valuable.
Yeah.
So I was charging like £2,000 off the bat.
Brilliant. That's great. But again, it's about connecting with your ideal client, the people you want to work with, how you're going to make a difference to them, and really caring about that. Yeah. It's so important.
And about yourself. It's honestly, all the business business will be successful if you believe that yourself, and if your energetics are right, if you're, you know, in touch with yourself. Like, that's the main thing. Like, people need to be spending less on, you know, trying to do a Canva course, and actually more on personal development, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we love all that at Baba. Oh, it's been such a good chat. We could talk all day, I think. I'd love to finish up by asking you, Emma, if you just had one, and you've given so much already in this chat, it's been amazing, but if you had one sort of key piece of advice for someone who wanted to set up a sustainable, you know, business that they were passionate about, what would that one piece of advice be?
It would be to create a solid foundation. It would be creating those roots, like really get clear on your vision, really visualize it, really see it, close your eyes. What does that look like? Get so clear with your vision and so clear with your message. Everything else then unfolds. You don't need to do a million things. You don't need to be, you know, preparing, because if you are so super clear in your vision and your message, then regardless of whether you've got like a 10-page strategy or not, you're always going to be moving forward, because you've got that clarity in your head.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you, Emma.
I'll take that on board as well. Definitely. Wow. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you? They can find more information about you.
Yeah, so the Naked Doula is the Naked Doula Official on Instagram. I have one book that's already out called the Fearless Birth Book, and then the Fearless Birth Journal comes out in April. And you can also find me, the Emma Armstrong, which I'll be sharing soon more of my new ventures.
Exciting.
Very
Brilliant.
exciting.
We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. So thank you very much, Emma, and thank you everyone for listening or watching. If you enjoyed this, please drop a comment on YouTube or over on Instagram, like and subscribe with your favorite podcast provider. And yeah, we'd love to know what you thought. So what you thought of the conversation. So don't be afraid to drop into our DMs. And of course, we can pass any messages on to Emma as well. So thanks, everybody. See you soon.
See you next time. Bye.